So I was strapped to the floor, my legs, arms, neck, and on either side of me, about 6 feet away, were rubber buckets full of water, and directly above them were outlets, electrical outlets, and into each bucket was an extension cord that was plugged into the outlets and came down into the buckets.
One of the things that drew us to telling Chris's story was the fact that he creates art that provokes a reaction from people.
I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Chris Burden.
He was always asking questions. He was always seeking to engage the audience, and he was always willing to push the boundary as far as he could push it.
He would do things which would be like a slap in the face.
He just walks into the buzzsaw and lets the feathers fly.
He had almost a sort of scientific method, a sort of science and engineering aspect to his work, that he started with something that he wanted to explore and a blank page, and he was going to sort of explore that idea from first principles and carry it through to fruition.
I remember Chris feeling his hands, trying to figure out where the nails could go through without it hurting.
I'm not about death, and I didn't want to die, but I wanted to come close.
What if art was violent? If it was painful?
It's as American as apple pie.
I think what really attracted me to his story was his commitment to his art. You know, in the early performances that he did, which were often dangerous or putting himself in precarious or uncomfortable situations, it was a case of, you know, putting his body on the line for his art. And later in his career, it would be committing, you know, huge amounts of time. These large-scale sculptures would take shape over a number of years, and being really committed to that process and to really realizing the ideas that he had in each piece that he wanted to make.
I mean, to be honest, Metropolis was a bit of a stretch for me, and scary, because it was such a complex work. It was set up here, took something like 6 months to take apart, and 9 months to reinstall. I think it's about Los Angeles. I think it's a poetic vision of or interpretation of Los Angeles.
It takes a pretty driven person to go through all the trouble of making that piece. Every detail is perfect.
I've always been interested in documentary, and I've always been interested in nonfiction. I look back at the new journalism movement, and I think there were a number of people in that movement that borrowed techniques from literature and fiction and really helped push new journalism along, and there was some zeitgeist at that time, and I think that's now the case for documentary.
The idea that he'd become beloved and emblematic of Los Angeles in this sort of cuddly way was something that nobody could have predicted back then.